VP of Marketing with MPS Credit Union and President of the Pinecrest Business Association. Welcome to our PBA Member Spotlight. I am joined today with Marilyn Blosser with Blosser Financial Services. Thank you for joining me today, Marilyn.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you. Marilyn is a very interesting woman, a fun woman, and we're going to have a great talk today. So when I was reading about you, I saw that you're a fellow Floridian as well.
Born in Miami.
We're very few and far between.
Yes, we are.
So give me a little bit about your history. I know you're born and raised in Miami, but what else?
A little bit about my history. I went to, Grant said, "Where'd you go to school?" I said, "I went to Santa Clara Elementary." "Where is that?" I said, "Wynwood." I was raised in Wynwood. And then Robert E. Lee Junior High, and then Coral Gables, and then on to the University of Florida. Oh, what a fupa that was!
Oh, yeah, no, you can't say you're a Cane if you're a Gator.
No, I am a Gator.
Go Gators!
Yep. And got into the insurance business in the 70s as a result of the federal government issued a mandate to major insurance companies that said, you will hire female agents.
Okay, because when you just said you got into the insurance business in the 70s, my first thought is women weren't in the insurance business in the 70s.
We weren't allowed. State Farm and Allstate paid out millions and millions of dollars in class action lawsuits. Now you see State Farm agencies that are owned by women.
Of course.
But I had a friend who said, we can be insurance agents now. And I'm like, I'm divorced with a couple of kids. I need a 9 to 5, 40-hour. I need a paycheck. And she said, well, they'll subsidize you, in the beginning. And I'm like, well, and then she said the magic words, which were, there's no limit to the amount of money you can make. And I'm like, oh, okay, I think I'll try that. So initially and I had great training. I worked for John Hancock District Office, and Bob Egan was my direct manager. But the main manager was like, he hated that there were 2 women agents in his office. Didn't matter. I qualified $1 Million Round Table my first year in the business, but that he didn't care. So it took him 3.5 years to kind of run me out, but then I got back in. But while I was working for Hancock, knocking on doors, I sold a policy to a young couple. Term insurance was better than nothing. And I delivered a $100,000 check, and back then that was a lot of money. So she was able to stay in the house with her kids. And then my passion went from me personally to my heart, and that's where it's been ever since. I love what I do. My daughter said, "When are you going to retire?" And I said, "When this begins to feel like a job."
Right, it doesn't, right? Because you do it from the heart.
Mm-hmm. And I run my own business, so I'm my own boss, and I set my own schedule, and I just need my phone and my computer, my laptop, and I can work from anywhere. I have an associate who actually works from his sailboat.
No way.
As long as he has internet. Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So I know you've been around with the Pinecrest Business Association for a few years now, and you're one of our ambassadors now that we're starting. Well, hopefully we're going to stay back in person with all this craziness coming back, but we're going to stay back in person. We're going to think positive. So I know you're also involved in several other boards and organizations. Why don't we talk about that?
I've served on the national, it's the Women in Insurance and Financial Services. That I'm also in NAFA, which is the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. I stay with NAFA because they're my insurance policies to stay in this industry and keep the tax status the same. Mm-hmm. Women in Insurance and Financial Services, because of my background getting in the business, I have a heartfelt for them, because that mandate that the federal government did was back in the 70s, and still today in 2021, there's less than 20% female in this business.
Still?
This is still a good old boy industry. Yes, absolutely.
Do you think that there's still barriers to entry for women?
I don't think it's barriers entry, it's barriers staying there. I mean, NAFA would give us, my organization, a free booth for their conference. And it was while I was serving as, I don't know if I was president or vice president of national at the time. So we had our booth. And of course, there's this big banner in the back that says Women in Insurance and Financial Services. And this guy comes walking up. Well, what do we need women in insurance and financial services for? And I said, that would be to overcome the attitude of men like you.
And say, what do we need men in insurance?
And he had a badge, and the badge was, I said, oh, I see you own your own agency. And he goes, yes. And I said, how many women are in there in your agency? He said, well, I don't have any. And I said, well, I rest my case. It's your attitude. And he just went walking away with his tail between his legs. But they can get a job in the industry, but they're not nurtured. They're not understood. So which is why
mentored, probably depending on where they are.
They don't really have that, which is why I'm so passionate about my professional organization, right. WIFS. Yeah.
And WIFS stands for
Women in Insurance and Financial Services.
And then for fun, I hear you're a little bit of an avid golfer and poker player.
Much more an avid poker player. I play poker all the time at the American Legion. On Sundays, we have a little poker game, and we play poker and home games. I play a lot of poker.
So give me some tips on how to have a poker face.
You just have to not talk to all the other people, and you have to be 100% in the moment and concentrate on what you're doing. And if you don't get involved in a lot of chatter, then you're going to be okay. And then you can maintain that.
Cool demeanor.
Very cool. Yes.
Very cool.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I always say that I do not have one iota of a poker face. Whatever I'm seeing or thinking, you see it directly on my face. Like, I wish I had that.
So true.
It's true, isn't it, Grant?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I wear my heart on my sleeve.
That's true. Your son even agrees.
Oh my God, we got some fans in the room today. But you've obviously been in the industry for a very long time. So what changes have you seen in the insurance arena in these past 40 plus years?
Oh, wow. In the beginning, when I started knocking on doors, there were only three kinds of insurance, life insurance. There was traditional, cash value, whole life insurance.
Uh-huh.
Then there was annual renewable term. So that meant that the death benefit stayed level, but every year your premium went up. And then there was decreasing term, where the premium was level, but your death benefit reduced to mirror what your mortgage is. So the basic, for decades, it was always life insurance was always marketed for the widows and orphans. And the emphasis was always on the death benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody talked about the living benefits in the policy, the cash value. And still about 90% of the advisors out there are still marketing to the widows and the orphans, buy-sell agreements for businesses. But I market it totally differently because people like Walt Disney, who started Disney by borrowing from the cash value of his life insurance policy, and J.C. Penney, the same thing. So we designed the plans, then we're using the bedrock, cash value whole life, but we're adding a special rider that creates immediate and high cash value with the very first premium payment.
Uh-huh.
And that cash value grows and you become your own source of financing. So you don't have to deal with banks or GMAC. you have your own bank. Nelson Nash started, he wrote the first book on this concept called Becoming Your Own Banker. Then Pamela Yellen wrote Bank on Yourself. And now recently, Garrett Gunderson wrote What Would the Rockefellers Do, which is a very good book, by the way. And they're all talking about the concept that I represent.
I assume they could find this book on Amazon
Yes,
so people can see it. What would the Rockefellers do?
it's pretty interesting. And it's an easy read. So, yeah.
So if I came to you as a new client, what insurance products would you recommend?
Oh, that would depend on all the information I got from you when I started asking you questions.
In our first interview?
I'm not just going to say, oh,
In our first date?
I'm not going to say, oh, you need cash value life insurance because I don't know what your financial position is. I don't know what your need is. So
the right, I asked that. It's not a one size fits all.
No.
Of course not.
I've got clients that everything is different. I've got great grandchildren that the day they were 2 weeks old, I bought life insurance policies on them. I own about 10 on different family members. So, including myself, of course.
Of course.
And we use them. I mean, the Rockefellers are keep the money in the family, unlike the Vanderbilts, who pretty well squandered. They still have some, but nothing compared to what they had at one time. So Rockefeller taught his kids, keep the money in the family, borrow, pay back.
Do it again?
Yes,
Again.
exactly. Just recycle that.
So speaking about borrowing, what do you think is the most misunderstood value about the cash value of life insurance?
Oh, let me count the ways. The ways that aren't actually discussed. But number one, it's the only financial vehicle that offers income tax-free withdrawal or borrowing and the death benefit. Not tax-deferred, income tax-free. So you fund it and you put as much money in it as you want. During your living years, you're borrowing that money and paying it back. And then when you're ready to retire or whenever, you're going to say, okay, I'm not paying any more premiums. I'm going to be able to take income tax-free passive revenue for 25 or 30 years. And then there'll still be some death benefit that's also income tax-free.
So it's not like borrowing against your 401k where you're...
Oh, you're in trouble if you borrow against your 401k.
Can we
and you
explain
lose
that
your
to
job?
people? Because I know there's a lot of people that do that. And that's really should be your absolute last resort if you need to borrow money. Isn't that the case?
Well, what happens when you borrow $50,000 or $20,000 or whatever from your 401k and then you lose your job? You've got, most of them are like, you've got 3 months to pay it back. Well, you had to borrow the money because you didn't have any. So where are you going to get the money to pay it back? And now you're going to have to pay income tax on the whole nut that you borrowed.
Right.
So the HR people, they're like, okay, here, you can be in the 401k plan, sign these papers, but they don't explain to them what the downside is and the regulations. So with your cash value life insurance whole life, you don't have any government regulations. There's no reg that says, oh, you can't take money out until you're 59 and a half. Oh, and when you're 72, you have to take required minimum distributions. None of that applies. You're 100% in control. It's probably the only thing in your life you're 100% in control of the policy.
Uh-huh.
You borrow money, you pay yourself back. It's on your terms. I have a guy who had policies on him and his wife, and he was a commander in the Navy in Jacksonville. And when he retired, he said, Marilyn, I want to be a charter boat fisherman. I'm like, okay. He said, I need $100,000 to buy the boat that I want. All right. So he borrowed the $100,000 from his policy. He loaned that to his LLC. The LLC paid him back with a little bit of interest. So there's a arm's length transaction
Right.
as far as the IRS
Mhm.
is concerned. And he paid it back the way he wanted to pay it back. If you go to
On
the,
his
if
terms,
he
not
went
on
to the
somebody
bank,
else's
right? If he
terms.
went to the bank, I figured out at 5%, he would have had to have paid a little over $2,300 a month. None of that. He'd send in a check for 5, send in a check for 3. So he set the terms on paying it back. He had it paid off in 4 years. And guess what? The end of 4 years, now he's got the $100,000 back in his policy. Plus, during the 4 years, the policy is still growing. So now he had $150,000 cash, and he wanted a bigger boat, so he just borrowed $130,000.
They always want a bigger boat, right, Marilyn? The boat is never big enough.
And then there's the Florida statutes that makes the cash value and the death benefit creditor proof.
Mm-hmm.
I have doctors and dentists who they don't have the malpractice insurance, so they park all their money into the life insurance policies that can't be touched by a patient who got ticked off that they did something wrong. Let's see what else. Then there's in the later versions, they have a rider that if you were to need assistance with 2 out of 6 activities of daily living, the insured can actually access part of the big chunk, actually, of the death benefit, not the cash, the death benefit, which is always more than what the cash is. Income tax free, or maybe a specified medical condition, like they had a heart attack, but they didn't need care because they recovered. They still have access to a lot of the death benefit.
So when should somebody think about getting life insurance?
Yesterday.
At what age? I'm asking this because you see a lot of young people, and I think the majority of people don't start thinking about getting life insurance until they have children. And really, as a lay person, I'm not an insurance. The younger you start, the longer you're building your nest egg, the cheaper your rates are because you're young and healthy.
As soon as they get work, my adult clients teach their kids, and I have a lot of the kids now who were being influenced by what their parents did. Now they're out of school and they have jobs and they're buying their own policies to start with. And then you can design it where they can add more money into the rider that's really the workhorse, and that's called a paid up additions rider. So for every dollar that you put into the paid up additions rider, it's equivalent to 94 cents of cash. And the difference buys you a little bit more of paid up life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So the death benefit is growing. Cash value is growing. What could be better?
It's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
So what describes your client base? Young, old, business,
all
individuals?
Ages, just like I was talking about my captain. Entrepreneurs, individuals. I have a client in New Orleans, and she called me up and said, I loaned my sister, who lives in Canada, $300,000, and she got a mortgage, and now she's going to pay me back the $300,000. And I want to pick 50 of that and put it on my mortgage. She's got a house that's, I don't know, worth about $1.5 million. And then I'm going to give you the $250,000 to put into a policy. Well, I can't put the whole lump sum in. If I do, I lose the income tax-free status. So the company that I work with, they have a premium deposit fund. She did this last August. So she deposited $250,000 into the premium deposit fund, paying her 3% interest, if you can believe that. And it was a 10-pay life.
In today's interest environment?
This was last August, it was 3%. Today it's 2.5. So I designed a 10-pay plan, and she'll have gone through the $250K in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
But she's making $15,000 a month in rental income, so she can well afford to pay the other years. And then she just said to me, oh, after the 10 years is up, can I keep making payments? And I'm like, no. Well, then I have to buy another policy. I'm like, okay. Works fine.
You'll
She
be-
gets it. And this was someone that I met 15 years ago. And she called me up out of the blue. We were on Facebook and that was it. And she called me up out of the blue and said, you know, Marilyn, you gave me that book, the Bank on Yourself book. I can't find it anywhere. I said, well, Julia, give me your address. I'll mail it to you. And then she told me the story of this money that she was getting. And I want to give you $250,000. I'm like, okay, I can work with that.
So you just talked about a book about the Bank on Yourself concept.
Yes, that's another book. Best New York Times bestseller, written a few years ago by a woman, Pamela Yellen. Bank on Yourself, and then she wrote another one, Bank on Yourself Revolution. She was mentored by Nelson Nash, who wrote the first book,
Mm-hmm.
Becoming Your Own Banker. So now Garrett got on the bandwagon, and more people are writing books about this concept because it works. I mean, it's amazing. And it's guaranteed. That's another little fact about these policies. You have
money will be
guaranteed
there.
growth, and
Right.
you know exactly at every point exactly what your cash value is going to be. And it doesn't matter what the stock market does, doesn't matter what the real estate market does.
It doesn't fluctuate with those markets.
Not at all.
Right.
Not at all.
Which in today's environment, every market is in such flux. In real estate, obviously the real estate market is inflated right now and doing fantastic, but it's all secular. No, that's my word. I created that word, right? Secular? Cyclical. I created that word. One day we were driving down to the Keys and I'm like, it's cyclical. It's like a combination of a cycle and what was the word I was combining it with?
I'm not sure.
Circular.
Oh.
Because everything goes in circles. So I create, that's a genism. We'll call it a genism. But
I have one of those. It's called, it's a dusty martini. And they said, what is that? I said, well, a dirty martini has a lot of olive juice, but I like mine dusty. I just want a little olive juice.
I like a dirty martini.
I coined a dusty martini.
Is it happy hour?
No, not yet.
No. Later, soon.
Much later.
So what do you think the biggest financial challenges are for people to get themselves insurance policies or that are just facing Americans today in general?
Illiteracy, I think, is the biggest thing. Life is so much more busier now than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. There's so many distractions. There's so much noise in the air, and we have to do it all. And we only have this much time to get it done. And they don't pay attention to their finances. They don't even know where they are financially, which is when I meet someone and it's a prospect, I ask them a lot of questions because I need to find out where they are. And many of them, most of them actually, unfortunately, don't know where they are. When I went to school, they offered bookkeeping. They don't offer anything in high school.
No.
So they graduate from high school, they go to college, and unless they're majoring in finance or risk management, there's no finance. They get their master's degree. They can become a brain surgeon and not know how to read a P&L. So
most doctors don't.
Exactly.
And I think especially with this millennial generation too,
that's even worse.
Yes.
And then when
I have one and she's a smart one, but still I don't know why. I don't know if it's because, I don't know, when we were raised, we were kind of just thrown out on the streets on our bicycles and we figured things out. And
we got home before dark.
Yeah. Or the dinner bell was ringing. But now they really can't do anything themselves. They have so much information literally at their fingertips. Mm-hmm. And they really flounder in trying to figure out, anything simple like applying for a credit card or writing a check or keeping their
they have to get it from
line.
Their parents or they don't get it. Schwab did a survey, I don't know, 4 or 5, time goes by so fast, could have been 10 years ago, and I could be just slightly off on the percentages, but close enough. 74% of the people in this country teach their children how to do laundry. 23% teach them how to balance a checkbook. So if they don't get it from their kids, they're not getting it from school, they don't get it. So they go off and then they're
Yeah.
like,
I have a 12-year-old who's running the controls back there, but I I this summer started, with Apple Pay. Like if he gets a certain amount of money and he needs to learn how to manage it. So we're already starting those lessons now. And next, Marilyn says I need to teach you how to do your own laundry. So that's next.
absolutely.
Instead of mom, I need more clothes. So we've talked a lot about stuff. We've given people a little bit of taste of everything. How do people get in touch with you? Because insurance is important.
They can send me an email to mmb@blosserfinancial.com.
Is there a website?
There is, but
It's not have a lot of information.
no. If they send me an email and schedule a conference call, not a sales call, it's a conference call to answer questions and to get information. And then if they want more information, I'm available.
So it's MMB, Marilyn, what's the second M for?
Morgan.
Marilyn Morgan Blosser at blosserfinancial.com. That's how you'll find Marilyn. She is a super fun lady. I would love to learn how to play golf with you.
Oh, we'll go to Topgolf.
Yes, let's go.
I love that.
And we'll get dusty martinis while we're playing golf.
Then we'll never hit the ball.
We might hit it better, right? It's that tipping point, right? Where you have a little bit, you hit it better. You have too much, and then you hit it worse. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
I found this very, very interesting, and I hope you guys did too that are watching. And don't forget, August 19th, we're having an after hours, the Pinecrest Business Association, along with the Palmetto Bay Business Association. We're joining forces to get together before school starts and the fall starts. So August 19th, 6 to 8 p.m. at Pig Floyd Barbecue.
I'll be there.
Marilyn will be there. We have our little real estate nights there. And, well, they closed on Wednesdays when they were open on Wednesdays.
Is it on Wednesday?
Yeah. So this is on a Thursday night. And there's first drink is on us. There's going to be light bites. Their food is delicious. So make sure you save the date for August 19th, 6 to 8 p.m. Our next PBA luncheon will be on Tuesday, September 21st. We're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Village of Pinecrest. It is a luncheon not to be missed. We'll have Evelyn Greer, Gary Matzner, Mayor Joe, people from the school district. We're going to have a lot of information and some great speakers and a wonderful time celebrating the Village of Pinecrest. So again, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for watching. Thank you to the Miller Brothers for hosting us every week, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.